NASCAR is placing restrictions on fire suits for NASCAR Truck Series teams in 2025. I'll explain what all of that means. Plus, Corey Day goes out and wins the Turkey Night Grand Prix, but not without a little bit of controversy. Welcome back to Break Hard. I'm Matt. On Saturday night, I went and watched a movie in a theater, but not a movie theater, if that makes any sort of sense. I went and saw Home Alone, the 1990 classic with Macaulay Culkin, at Cincinnati Music Hall with a live orchestra playing the music, the symphony, the Cincinnati Pops, I believe, is actually the technical name, playing the music of Home Alone as you're watching the movie. And it was an absolutely phenomenal experience, except for Brenda and Brittany sitting behind me with their two schlubs of husbands that would not shut up the entire time. Listen, guys, you're going out to a movie and you want to talk, stay home and watch said movie, especially if the movie's, 34 years old. I don't need you reciting the lines. I came here to watch Macaulay Culkin deliver these lines, not Brittany sitting back there trying to slurp down vodka Sprite and eating chocolate-covered pretzels or snow caps or whatever the heck she had that she was just chomping along in there. So that is the Break Hard tip of the day. Use some just common courtesy when you're out in public. But if it's happening in your city, if your local orchestra, symphony, Pops, whatever is doing something like that, highly recommend it. It was so much fun. Definitely will be back again. So getting into today's actual news though, NASCAR will be placing restrictions on the fire suits that NASCAR Truck Series teams can use in 2025 as part of some cost cutting measures. Now, there was a lot of talk about this on the internet over the last week, and people seem to have two different sides of it. And thankfully, Matt Weaver from Sportsnot reached out to NASCAR. NASCAR clarified all of this. But going forward, starting in 2025, all of the behind the wall pit crew, the guys that do not go over the wall and service the truck, all of the behind the wall guys, they will have to wear non-branded fire suits, meaning that they will not have sponsorship on them. There will be a color that the team chooses, a design that the team chooses, but it will not have any sort of branding on it. They are encouraged to have the Goodyear Sunoco NASCAR badges on their fire suits. It is not required, but it is strongly recommended. Of course it is, because all those companies pay a lot of money to be in NASCAR, but all the behind-the-wall guys will have to have the same non-branded fire suits. Now, people are like, well, how's that saving them any sort of money if they have to go out and buy these new fire suits? Well, something that I wasn't aware of, I didn't realize it would happen as many times as it did. I knew it happened a few times throughout the year, as NASCAR had to hand out penalties to some Truck Series crew members because their fire suit did not meet the safety rating that NASCAR requires because they're too old. They've aged out or they just didn't meet them in the first place. And the problem with that is some guys are using hand-me-down, fire suits that have been around for some years, like a Greg Biffle Granger fire suit, or you'll get somebody out there with an old fire suit where it stops you in your tracks and you're like, is that an Office Depot Carl Edwards sponsored? Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, that's weird. So stuff like that has been happening, especially with some of the lower budget teams. And NASCAR really it's more of a safety issue in this aspect. And once I get to a little bit more, you guys I think it'll be a little bit more sense. The over-the-wall pit crew guys will all have branded fire suits with the sponsor, but they have to have the same fire suit for the entire year, at least the same design. No more switching fire suits throughout the season where a sponsor comes in and buys the fire suits out for that race, and all these guys kind of just have a one-off fire suit. I understand it, especially for like drivers. It's going to be super easy because you're going to know what your guys are wearing every single week. For NASCAR, it's going to be easy to identify all of these guys. It will be cost, saving, but I kind of do like when sponsors are willing to pay the money to, brand out the entire team and not just the truck and the driver at that. I kind of like that because it tells me that there's some intent behind them wanting to spend money. I understand it, but also I kind of like seeing all that stuff happen. But I digress. It's not something I'm going to get too worked up over. So Matt Weaver reached out to NASCAR because everybody was like, what are we doing here? Kevin Harvick was talking about it. I think Dale Jr. was talking about it. And they're like, these are the problems that we're focusing on. Well, it's not necessarily something that NASCAR, honed in on and was like, we're going to do this. NASCAR talked with the teams. There's a committee of Truck Series teams, 7 teams that consist of 24 different entries in the series. And this was something that they had identified that they would like to have changed and would help them save money. So NASCAR went ahead and implemented it for 2025. So it's not necessarily a NASCAR mandated thing where they were like, at the end of 2024 going into 25, they're like, we're absolutely changing this for next season. It was more of the teams being like, hey, we think that this is the right direction to go. And NASCAR was like, okay, yeah, makes sense. We'll just go ahead and do that as well. Shirts like work shirts in the pit or in the garage area and stuff like that, that can all still be branded. That's up to the team's discretion, whether they just want that to say like Thor Sport or, Spire or whatever, a truck team on it, or if they wanted to have the brand on it, whether that be HendrickCars.com or T Sport or whatever sponsor will be on, for that race weekend. That's up to the teams to decide. But the over the wall pit crews, guys behind the wall will have to wear non-branded fire suits. Guys going over the wall will wear the same branded fire suit for the entire year, at least the same design. Obviously, if something happens to their fire suit, they can go get a new one. But yeah, so I know there's a lot of uproar about it. Kind of seeing what the reasoning was behind it. I understand it. It's not something I'm going to get too worked up about. I'm sure somebody will, but it makes a lot of sense in the long run for the most part. NASCAR Truck Series driver Corey Day picked up a win on Saturday night in the 83rd running of the Turkey Night Grand Prix at Ventura Raceway, but it didn't come without a little bit of controversy. So with 52 laps to go in the race, Corey Day goes down to the corner and just runs through Kyle Larson, utilizing all of the skills that he learned from his 3 ARCA starts, and sent Kyle Larson spinning. I'm sure at that moment, Larson was like, I'm going to pull his development deal, because there's been no bigger proponent for Corey Day than Kyle Larson over at the Hendrick Motorsports shop. There's a reason he has a development deal. It's because of Kyle Larson, and Larson has said multiple times that Corey Day is more talented at now 19 than Kyle Larson was at that same age, and I don't think he's wrong. Corey Day is incredibly talented, but I'm sure NASCAR's most popular driver wasn't very happy about getting spun out, and I know his fans weren't at all, because they took to the internet on Saturday night and were not pleased whatsoever. But that didn't stop Corey Day, because he went and won the race, got the lead with like 16 laps to go, and never looked back. He ends up winning on Saturday night, picking up a crown jewel win. Like I said, a major victory for him on that USAC dirt midget scene. Dason Persley picks up the championship. He came home in third. Buddy Kofoid came home in second. That was your podium. Corey Day first, Buddy Kofoid second, and Dason Persley in third. Dason Persley, heck of a comeback from where he was at injured, 2 years ago, I think at this point. Buddy Kofoid obviously had a bit of a Toyota development deal, and then seemed like he might go the NASCAR route. Now hasn't gone the NASCAR route. He's racing for Roth Motorsports in the sprint car, the 410 world. Yeah, Turkey Night Grand Prix it's always a fun time. Kyle Larson ends up coming home in 20th place, I believe. I can't remember if I mentioned that earlier or not. Ty Gibbs was also in this race. Kyle Busch also in this race. They did not advance to the feature, which honestly isn't that surprising. I believe there were like 52 to 56 entries, somewhere in that range on Saturday night. Pretty stacked field. A lot of really, really talented drivers out there. And, you have guys doing one-offs, or, guys coming in and want to race this against guys that have been on this USAC midget tour all season long. And it's a really stout tour. And honestly, this is a bit of a precursor to what we're going to see at Chili Bowl. Completely different racetracks for sure. But this level of talent, now we're going to get 300 plus entries in Tulsa in about a month's time as well. It's going to be an absolutely stacked field when they get down there to the Expo Center. I'll have to wait and see if Kyle Larson's going to show up. Will Christopher Bell show up? Because if they do, well, they automatically go right to the top as guys that are going to be contenders, and guys that will maybe possibly likely be, your winners for your qualifying nights throughout the week to lock themselves into the feature on Saturday. For Corey Day, though, I think he goes to Tulsa now as one of the favorites, because he's been lights out this year. I mean, the guy is multiple time high limit winner in 2024. He has his Hendrick development deal. He's made starts in ARCA and trucks. He has midget wins. The guy's on top of the world right now. He's 19 years old, incredibly talented, so much raw talent, so much just driver ability that you like to see out of a young race car driver. Still waiting on what his 2025 plans are, though, over at Hendrick Motorsports. I've heard a couple of different types of plans for him. I don't know if there's necessarily one that I've heard that I'm like, oh, that's the cemented one at that. I'm sure the people over at Hendrick have a much better idea on what they're going to do. I've heard anything from a full ARCA schedule run out of the Hendrick shop to, potentially a truck schedule, to maybe just going full-time Xfinity or doing a large majority of Xfinity races as well. We'll see what happens there. I know Spire's running a 4th Cup car in some select races. Is he a possibility for that? Who knows? But Corey Day and Hendrick Motorsports, or at least Hendrick Motorsports, is very high on Corey Day. So we'll see how all of this plays out. So let me know in the comments, though, what you think about NASCAR changing the Firesuit rules for the Truck Series, plus Corey Day winning the Turkey Night Grand Prix, taking out Kyle Larson in the process, and what his future looks like as well. So like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on TikTok at BreakHard, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at BreakHardBlog.